The topic of today's video is a subject that I have been trying to conceptualize for a long time and which I have finally decided to name life aesthetics. What does life aesthetics mean? Etymologically, the word life, hayat, refers to being alive, being animate, and living. Aesthetic refers to what can be grasped by the senses, that which concerns the beautiful, and the theory of beauty. Life aesthetics is an important subject, especially for us. The main reason is that we have a cultural past which sees life and the way of living as a kind of art. The life we live today has been formed by the hegemonic Western powers imposing their own lifestyle on the rest of the world. At the center of this lifestyle lies the pagan Christian understanding. In other words, today's global culture has been shaped in this way. From clothing to entertainment, from consumer madness to the formation of cities, the situation is like this. For example, when one says art, what comes to mind are products like painting, sculpture, theatre, cinema. A product that is watched. But in the Eastern tradition, in many areas, life itself was art. From the manner of sitting and standing to the tea ceremony, from dhikr to martial arts. In the West, philosophy detached itself passively from life, while in the East philosophers were actively inside life. For example, in Japan, Master Rikyu brought a new perspective to the tea ceremony and produced ideas about how the ceremony should be performed. This is not a frozen act. It is continuously practiced by different people. The person is not passive but active in this art. Dhikr ceremonies are also like this. There is no passive audience. Every individual is present as a participant. Life aesthetics is in fact the production and practice of a philosophy about how one should live. This philosophy includes everything from life at home, relationships with neighbours, view of nature, to the way of working. In this context, when we start from inside the house, I want to mention floor culture, which is very valuable for me. Until the modern era, almost all societies outside Europe lived on the floor. It was the same for us. What does this mean? Sitting on the floor, sleeping on a mattress. I can add that today, just as we cannot live without sofa, chair, table, and such furniture, our mind is shaped according to this. In those days, people's minds were shaped according to floor living. Today, we see qualified fragments of floor culture in Japan. This culture is respected so much that many films, games, or tourist activities are shaped in this context. In our case, this situation appears as a sign of poverty or marginality and needs to be reconsidered. Floor culture seems like the beginning of life philosophy to me, because it is almost a core that will affect everything about one's life and push one to rethink. How? Being able to live on the floor includes factors such as less furniture, more flexible space, more comfortable clothing, a fitter body, a more correct relationship with nature, preventing waste, closeness to the ground, and practicality. Today, we fill our houses with furniture. They almost sit instead of us. And we need bigger houses to make them comfortable. Think of a village or a traditional house. The sofa space, for example. Cushions on the floor, maybe a built-in platform on a wall. Guests enter and sit. It does not matter how many people come. Space is unlimited. A cloth is spread on the floor and food comes in trays. Hosting guests is this easy. But today, the number and time of guests is planned weeks before, and even then, there is great stress. The big dining table is filled with cutlery, knives, and all sorts of items, and the torture of the guest begins. After the guests leave, a sigh of relief is taken, and these guests are mostly close relatives or close friends. This example is very simple, I know, but in order to be understood, it is necessary to give such examples to the mind of today's human squeezed into the modern world. When we look at the understanding that produced today's culture, we see an aristocratic bourgeois form which decorates the house like a museum to be watched or visited, which sets chairs and tables even in nature or garden, which is detached from nature and human. This is an understanding in which wealthy families decorated their facades to show wealth, had their chefs prepare expensive dishes that could only be cooked in rich houses, and gave these dishes their own family names, covered their gardens with lawns to indicate that they did not graze animals or farm. Today, everyone tries to take their share from this lifestyle as much as they can. The origin of the passive watching culture in the West is the church. These actions based on watching and not participating represent the person captured in the hands of clergy. Sit on the church bench and listen. Watch, they said to the human. From cinema to roller coasters, everything was shaped like this. But as I said, in Eastern societies, actions without participation are not appropriate. The body and the five senses must be involved. In this regard, it is a sign that Islamic culture exists with prayer unlike the church. You can see similar examples in many societies with floor culture. In short, we need to re-evaluate the ground. Thus, we will see that houses shrink while expanding. Building becomes easier. Ground-level detached living develops. Relationships with neighbours increase. Our view of nature changes. Another feature of ground living is that the place is clean and sacred. One does not step on the beautiful carpets and rugs with shoes. Not entering with shoes is not only cleanliness, but also respect and sacredness. After this point, we will see that our architectural place names, which consist of many Western words such as living room, bathroom, corridor, toilet, balcony, will begin to transform into sofa, main room, hela, hayat, sedia, seki, floor table, and so on. This will bring us to ourselves and we will discover many new things. Of course, life aesthetics is not only living on the floor. There are also concepts like trade, human and environment relationship, natural food, independent energy, consumption in moderation. Now, the only thing left is to take the eastern corner, which was pushed aside, and talk to it again and evaluate its potential. As we talk, we will see that new paths will open. Shaping houses, neighbourhoods and villages with this understanding will allow societies imprisoned in screens to turn to conversation, practice and nature, and will make it possible for them to transform from passive objects into active individuals.